Alright guys, welcome back to another installation of Bible Basics. Today we are going to be studying In the Beginning. Those of you who are familiar will know that we are going to be discussing and starting out in the book of Genesis. So, in the last lesson, we talked about time having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Alright? So now we are going to prove that this indeed is true in Scripture, and there is a beginning, middle, and end for very specific things. So let's talk about the beginning, middle, and end in particular when it comes to the Bible. Alright, so in Genesis 1:1 it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Alright? Now, what beginning is being talked about specifically? When we read further down in verse 5, we know that it is talking about the beginning of the first day. And when we see that phrase, "in the beginning," it is an indication that time is created. And as we covered in the previous lesson, before time existed, or the opposite of time is eternity, which has no beginning, middle, or end. So here in Genesis 1:1, before time was created, only eternity existed, meaning God is eternal and his dwelling place is from eternity to eternity. Now, how do we know for sure that time has an end? Okay, well, we covered that Genesis 1:1 was the beginning of day 1, okay? So when exactly did day 1 begin? How do we know the start of a day? Okay, well, we also read that God created light and darkness, and he separated them from each other. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Alright? And then he also said that there was evening and morning the first day, or one day, however your translation puts it. But notice that evening and morning are associated with the day and the light, not the nighttime, okay, or the darkness. So the other thing to notice here is that on the first day, the sun, moon, and stars were non-existent. So we know that morning is not the same as sunrise, because sunrise is literally when the sun rises. Okay? Morning is the appearance of light. Evening is the disappearance of light. Okay, so when God called the light, it was morning. And as the light faded, it was evening. Okay, that led up to the first day. And then after that, it was simply night. So we see there's a beginning and end of the day. And then there's a beginning and an end to the night. So the day looks like this. Morning to evening. And then the night is simply night to night. First day, first night. And then the next morning would be the second day. Okay? Goes to evening, that's the end. Once the light disappears, then it's the second night. And then so on and so forth. Okay? But is there an end to time itself? Okay. And before we get there, is there an end to this count in the creation? Yes, there is. So, from Genesis 1, verse 1 to chapter 2, verse 3, okay, we are informed that there are 7 days in 1 week. And this right here is the foundation for the whole Bible. Alright, if we mess this up here, the rest of the Bible, the rest of our interpretation will be completely off. Okay? It's important to understand the difference between time and eternity. It's important to understand the 3 characteristics of time, that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's also important to understand when a day begins and ends, and when a night begins and ends, and to keep them separate. Mixing them up will only throw things off and put us all into confusion here, more than we already are. All right. Now, God ended all of his work on the 7th day. All right. He rested. And he set that day apart and made it holy and special from the rest of the other days. Now, what makes the 7th day so special? Well, it's actually one of the first blessings in the Bible, because God said that he blessed the 7th day and made it holy, or he made it whole. He set it apart. So, first to the 6th day, God worked. 7th day, God rested. Okay? So here, we're blessed and made holy by resting on the 7th day of every week like God did. So if we want to be blessed and set apart, then we need to set apart the 7th day and rest on the 7th day just like God did. So we see, brothers and sisters, that there is a beginning, middle, and an end to the day and the week. All right. Now, what about for time? So when we turn to the book of Revelation, chapter 10, and we read from verses 5 all the way to verse 7, we read that during the time of the seventh angel, okay, when he begins to sound, the mysteries of God will be finished, and time as we know it will come to an end. Okay, so please read Genesis 1:1 to 2, chapter 3, and Revelation chapter 10, verses 5 to 7. Okay? Now, the thing that connects the beginning and the end is the story and life of Yeshua HaMashiach. Alright? He connects those two. So, according to the Bible, the world has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and so does everything that is in the world. Why? Because all have been made subject to time. How do we know this? Going back to Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, this is time, God created the heavens this is space and the earth. So we see that God created time, space, and matter, and he subjected all three to be finite. That is, they possess a beginning, middle, and an end. Okay? So, in the next lesson, we'll go over exactly the specific times for the world.